Emma Whitcomb stood at the center of the orchard clearing, clipboard against her hip, reciting the order of a stranger's wedding from memory processional, vows, the exact minute the string quartet would shift key. She didn't glance at the page once. Nathan Kirby knelt by the arbor a few feet away, tightening a bolt that didn't need tightening. "You'd make a great bride someday," he said, not looking up. "You've got the whole thing memorized better than the woman actually getting married." Emma didn't look up either. "I'd need a groom for that." The wrench in Nathan's hand went still. "Keep that answer in mind. By the end of this one, it means something neither of them expected." The orchard had belonged to the Whitcomb family. Before either of them was born, rows of cherry trees planted by Emma's grandfather turned into a wedding venue by her father 2 decades later, when the fruit alone stopped covering what the land cost to keep. Emma had grown up walking between the trellises before she'd learned to read a balance sheet, and she ran the place now the same way her father had taught her to. Early mornings, long nights, a phone that never fully went quiet, even on Sundays. Nathan had been hired 3 months earlier to rebuild the ceremony arbor and the wooden stage behind it, one of a dozen local contractors her assistant had lined up before Emma settled on him specifically. His estimates were honest, his work was clean, and he didn't pad invoices the way the last 2 carpenters had. He kept mostly to himself. He showed up early, worked until the light went, and drove back into town, where his son was waiting with dinner half made and homework half finished. Around them, the crew was already breaking for the day, folding tarps, coiling extension cords, calling out good nights across the gravel lot. Emma watched Nathan gather his tools without a wasted motion, the kind of economy that came from doing something so many times it no longer required thought. She had noticed it before, she hadn't let herself think about why. Marion Boyd, the company's longtime accountant, found her by the front gate a few minutes later, a folder tucked under one arm and reading glasses pushed up into gray hair. "You've got the anniversary meeting Thursday," Marion said. 12 months since your father passed. The board wants it on record before the window closes." Emma didn't need reminding. The will had given her a year of sole authority, 1 year, to run Whitcomb Orchard Estates exactly as she saw fit. No board approval required for anything short of selling the land outright. After that, every major decision went back to a vote of 7 people, most of whom had known her since she was in pigtails, and none of whom had run a business through a single wedding season. She'd known the date was coming the way you know a storm is coming from 3 states over. Knowing hadn't made it any easier to watch it arrive. "I'll be ready," Emma said. Marion studied her a moment too long before nodding and walking off toward the office, heels clicking against gravel in a way that had marked the end of a workday at Whitcomb Orchard for over 20 years. Emma turned back toward the arbor and found Nathan already watching her, not with curiosity, just the quiet attention of a man who noticed when someone was carrying something heavy and didn't feel the need to ask about it out loud. "Long week?" he asked. "Long year," she said, and left it there. The next morning, Sam Kirby showed up with his father for the first time that season, 9 years old and already taller than the toolbox he was carrying. He set it down carefully at the base of the arbor, the way his father had taught him, and looked up at Emma with the unguarded directness only children manage. "Are you the lady who owns all the cherry trees?" "I am," Emma said. "There's a lot of them." "There are. About 6,000, if you count the young ones that haven't fruited yet." Sam considered this number with real seriousness, the way a 9-year-old considers anything that sounds impossibly large, then reached into his pocket and held out a small tangle of ribbon he'd found in the grass, leftover trim from a wedding the week before. "You dropped this. I think that one belongs to a bride," Emma said, crouching down to take it from him. "Thank you for finding it." Nathan watched the exchange from the ladder, something in his chest loosening in a way he didn't examine too closely. Sam wandered off toward the row of half-finished chairs stacked near the equipment shed, already narrating some private game to himself, and Emma straightened up, brushing grass from her knees. "He's got good manners," she said. "His mother's doing mostly," Nathan said. "I just try to keep him fed and on time for school." It was the first time in 3 months he'd mentioned a mother at all, and Emma didn't push. She'd learned, in this line of work, that people told you what they were ready to tell you, in the order they were ready to tell it, and rushing them only closed the door faster than it would have shut on its own. Emma tucked the ribbon into her jacket pocket instead of tossing it in the lost and found bin by the office door, though she couldn't have said why at the time. It stayed there through the rest of the week, Forgotten and not forgotten, the way small things sometimes are. Dean Ashford arrived an hour later in his usual gray suit, out of place among the sawdust and the ladders, his tablet already lit to a spreadsheet before he'd finished crossing the gravel. He was Emma's cousin twice removed, technically, though the family called him closer than that out of habit. He'd worked alongside Walter Whitcomb for over a decade, handled the business side while Walter handled the trees, and since Walter's death the board had leaned on him more than anyone expected, Dean included. Maintenance costs on the west section are up 11% from last season, Dean said, not quite a greeting. I'll bring the full numbers to Thursday's meeting. Bring them, Emma said. I'll have mine ready too. Dean's smile didn't reach his eyes. Just want everyone informed before we vote. He left the way he'd come, and Emma watched him go with the particular exhaustion of managing a relative instead of an employee. Nathan hadn't said anything during the exchange, but he'd clocked it, filed it away the same way he filed away a joint that didn't sit quite square, something worth keeping an eye on later. Traverse City settled into autumn around them the way it did every year. The tourists thinning out, the bay turning a colder shade of blue, the roadside stands swapping their summer signs for pumpkins and cider. Emma had lived here her whole life and had never once seriously considered leaving, not even during the 2 years after the wedding that didn't happen, when half the town seemed to know her business better than she knew it herself. Nathan had grown up 2 counties over, and had only landed here because